Hello there, and welcome back to another episode of Check with Tech, your guide to all things tech. I'm your host Yassine Azam, and let's get started, shall we? So Amazon just added a new refresh of its Fire HD 8 tablet, which, if you don't know, is basically a cheap budget tablet if you don't use extreme performance and you just want a good tablet at a really good price. And then Amazon just added some new specs, and in my opinion, that's better. So now, what's new about it? Well, the old processor on the tablet used to be only at 1.3 gigahertz, which is a quad-core chip, and it's now a 2 gigahertz processor, and Amazon says that it's 30% faster. I don't have it on my hands yet, but I think I do believe them. I mean, yeah, that does make sense. And then you have a bigger RAM. Since the 2018 model, you used to have 1.5 gigs of RAM, and I have 2. I mean, not as big of a jump as I expected, but it's still good, I guess. Unfortunately, it's still the same display, the same 8-inch display, and Amazon said that the battery life is estimated at around 12 hours. And charging, I mean, it's still the same 5-watt charger, but this time it's on a USB-C cable. So now you get faster charging speeds, but it's not as fast as flagship tablets and phones. And that's it. So where does it start? As I said, the Fire HD 8 used to start at $79.99, and the new model costs $89.99. So you get USB-C, you get a better processor, you get bigger RAM, and of course you get bigger storage. I forgot to mention that. Instead of 16 all the way to 32 gigs of storage, you now get 32 gigs until 64 gigabytes of storage, with up to 1 terabyte of expandable storage via micro SD card slot. And all of that is just like $10 more expensive. That's definitely a much better deal than the last model. So the plus, what's so plus about it? I mean, why would you even make a better model of a tablet when it's already good at its price? Well, look, it starts at $110, and for that you get bigger RAM, 3 gigs, which is competent enough for my use. It has key wireless charging, which is new for the Fire HD 8 series, and you have a faster 9 watts charger in the box, and you do get 6 months of Kindle Unlimited for free. So with all of that for $20, that's still a good bang for your buck. And now there is an extra version of this tablet, the Kids Edition, because of course it starts at around $140, and it has the exact same specs as the regular HD 8, but with the kid-proof case. You can pre-order all of those models today on Amazon, and they are expected to ship on June 3rd. Okay, so let's say you're doing something really important on your phone, and you value privacy more than anything else on your phone. Camera, batteries, whatever, it doesn't compare to your security. And then for some reason your phone is it's dead, it doesn't work anymore. So you want a replacement. Where do you go from there? Well, Samsung just announced the new Galaxy A Quantum phone. What that is, it's basically a phone just really focused on security. Yeah. So, is it good? Well, let's find out. Well, it has a 6.7-inch FHD Plus screen with a hole punch cutout. What else do you expect from that in 2020? You have a 4500 mAh battery, which is great. You have 8 gigs of RAM, 128 gigs of storage. You have 4 cameras on the back, a 64 megapixel camera, a 12 megapixel ultra wide camera, a 5 megapixel macro mode camera, and a 5 megapixel depth sensor. And on the front you have a 32 megapixel selfie camera. And to top all of that off, you do get Samsung's Exynos 985G processor. But all of that doesn't compare to the true focus of this phone, security. So what does it have to combat against any viruses, scams, hackers, anything? Well, it does have, get this, a quantum random number generation chipset. Yeah, that's a mouthful, but if you know what it means, then that's a good thing for security. Basically what it does, that it helps smartphones generate any random number with no pattern, and it's completely 100% unpredictable, and it for some reason has a CMOS image sensor that detects photons. With this and the random number generator, it basically adds a bigger and better security layer for any authentication on any application, I believe, on this device. But if you really like this phone and you want to get it and you don't live in South Korea, too bad, because it's only available in South Korea. Pre-orders start from May 15 until May 21, and it's expected to start on retail on May 22nd. It will start at around 650,000 won, which is around $530. And now to the highlight of this episode, the newly refreshed Dell XPS 15 and the finally resurgent XPS 17. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Dell has finally revived the XPS 17 since I think it was like 2010, or at least it was a decade ago that this laptop was last refreshed. Now the highlight of this of these new laptops is of course the display, but I'll keep that at the end because I want to create a sense of suspense. So now let's go to everything else. So both of these laptops actually have almost identical specs. They both have the same processor variations, going from a 10th gen Core i5 10300H all the way up to a Core i9 1088 5H. And in between you have an i7 10750H and an i7 10875 5H. You go from 8 to 64 gigs of RAM, which is a lot. You go from 256 all the way to 2 terabytes of solid state storage. You have Wi-Fi 6, which is good. Both laptops offer the Intel UHD graphics or an NVIDIA GeForce GTX 1650 Ti. But if you go for the 17-inch model, you do have an option to go all the way up to an NVIDIA GeForce RTX 2060. The XPS 15 has 2 Thunderbolt 3 ports, an SD card reader, and a headphone jack. The XPS 17 has 4 Thunderbolt 3 ports with the same SD card reader and the same headphone jack. Now we get to the most beautiful part of this laptop, other than the design of course, the display. Now, both laptops have what Dell calls an Infinity Edge display, which has the smallest bezels I have ever seen in a laptop ever. It has a 92.9% screen to body ratio, but from the pictures it sounds like 98%, and that's because when you actually lift up the screen, the bezels on the bottom aren't really visible, so there's barely any space between the bottom end of this display and the keyboard. And what's more surprising is that they actually managed to fit in an HD webcam on the extremely thin bezels without even adding a notch. So props to Dell, that is impressive. on both laptops, you can get the display in either Full HD or 4K, and the display has a 16:10 aspect ratio, not 16.9. So that also helps with the bezels on top and on the bottom. And yeah, props to Dell. That is extremely beautiful to look at. I cannot put my eyes anywhere else than on the pictures that I'm seeing on the laptop right here. So if you want a beautiful display, a good variety of ports, that is if you don't use USB-A, great performance if you go all the way out, and of course the carbon fiber on the space between the keyboard and the trackpad. If you do want that, then I highly recommend these two laptops, whichever model you choose. And the price is pretty steep. The XPS 15 is available now, and it will start at $12.99, and the XPS 17 will be launched sometime in this summer and will start at $1,500. A lot, but that's still good. Honestly, this has to be one of the best looking laptops of this year, of any year, to be honest. So Huawei has found a loophole for the US ban, especially on Google services. So apparently, if you release the exact same phone with really minor differences, you can still incorporate Google services into it. And that's exactly what Huawei did with the Huawei P30 Pro new edition. Be careful of the word new. If you didn't know, basically the US government banned Huawei from using any of Google's software except Android onto their devices, phones, tablets, etc. So apparently this idea could work. I mean, it has to be legal. But yeah, that's a good thing for any one of you who wants a slightly small refresh of the Huawei P30 Pro. So here we are. It has the exact same specs, the same 6.47-inch OLED display, the same current 980 chipset, the same 4,200 mAh battery, the same 40-watt charging brick, the same 4 rear cameras, which are done by Leica, I believe. So what's different? Well, memory and storage, and colors. So for the memory, you do get 8 gigs of RAM and 256 gigs of storage. There are no other variants for the memory, by the way. Now for the colors, which are interesting, you do get 3 colors: Aurora, Black, and the Silver Frost color, which is found on the Huawei P40. This thing is absolutely beautiful. I will take it any day on any smartphone. So yeah, if you do like the Huawei P40 and the Silver Frost color, you can get it on the new Huawei P30 Pro new edition. If you get the old edition, yeah, you cannot get that color, sorry. You can pre-order it in Germany starting today for 750 euros, and deliveries begin on June 1st. In the UK, you can get it on June 3rd, and it'll start at £700. And in the UK, if you get this new phone before June 30th, you can get a Huawei Watch GT2e for free with a voucher. And now it's that time of the week again, the tiny topics. Apparently, on the OnePlus 8 Pro, if you use the color filter camera, it can work as an X-ray and can see through certain plastics and clothes. Sony is now developing an AI image sensor for its cameras. PlayStation will launch PlayStation Studios with the same launch day as the PS5, which is still undefined yet. Motorola promises that the Edge Plus will get updates until Android 12. And it's been a long time, but Google Lens can finally copy and paste handwritten notes in photos. And get this, you can copy and paste it through devices. So if you took a picture on your phone, you can copy the text on your laptop or your iPad. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we bring this week's summary of everything that happened to a close. Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Please make sure to listen to the other episodes in this podcast, and don't be afraid to leave a review on Apple Podcasts. As always, this is Yasin Azam signing out. See you next weekend.